Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over the water to Denmark once again, to Nørre Aaby in Frothy, which of course is home to Indslev Bryggeri and Ugly Duck Brewing Company. We've got another one of the Ugly Duck beers to have a look at today, and I think this is one of their fairly new ones actually. So we're having a look at Follow the White Rabbit today, which is a white IPA with some Brettanomyces, so it's almost like a hybrid of three styles, a wheat beer, an IPA and a sour beer too, so should be quite an interesting one. And this beer was rated at 90 overall on Rate Beer. This is actually one of their highest rated beers, so I'm interested to see how we got on with this one. It was rated 90 overall and 98 within the style, so it should be pretty good. And if you've seen my reviews from Indslev and from Ugly Duck before, you will know that I do enjoy the wheat beers in the Indslev range, so should be interesting to see how this one turns out. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews, both from Ugly Duck and from Indslev. Do check both of those out. There's all the usual social media. If you'd want to see more beer reviews, do subscribe to the channel. And as always, to those of you in Denmark, please do get in touch and let me know some other Danish beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. The Danish beer I've tried so far has been really good, so I'd love to try some more different breweries. But anyway, to tell you about Ugly Duck Brewing Company. So Ugly Duck, as I've mentioned to you many a time, are one of the beer brands brewed by Indslev Bryggeri, who are based in Nørre Aaby near Middelfart on the island of Frothy in Denmark, which is the middle island of course. You've got Öland, which is the mainland, and then Sjælland, which is in the east, and that is where Copenhagen is, and Frothy is right in the middle. But the Indslev Bryggeri has roots that trace back to 1897, but they reopened as a modern brewery once again in 2006, and since 2012 they've also been brewing these Ugly Duck beers as well. And the brewery is owned by Anders Rasmussen, whose great-grandfather Frederick actually built the brewery in 1897, and they still brew in that old building today actually, but both of them grew up on the family farm right next to the brewery. There's many breweries here in Scandinavia that are farmhouse breweries. The notable one here in Sweden is Aaby, who are one of my favourite Swedish breweries actually. But Indslev were actually the first modern brewery in Denmark who specialised in wheat beer brewing, and to date they're the only ones who still do this, and they actually do some really pretty awesome beers that are wheat hybrids. There's the wheat stout, the wheat IPA. Those are some really nice beers, and I would recommend that you try those. But the desire to kind of get on the craft beer wave, if you like, and brew the more American style beers was what led them to found the Ugly Duck Brewing Company as a kind of sidearm of Indslev Bryggeri. But the two brewers at the brewery are Stefan Peter Stadler, who is a graduate of the Hofbräu School in Munich, of course, very prestigious. He's worked in Germany and Denmark. And there's also Stefan Peter Stadler, who is Danish and has worked for a few different breweries in Denmark. And they've got a Kasper Schultz brew kit from Bamberg in Germany. Bamberg, of course, is a bit of a holy grail, if you like, for German beer. So the brewery has two very good brewers, a very good brew kit, and some guys at the helm who are really passionate about their craft beer. And this one, of course, was sent to me by Mike at the brewery, so a big thank you to Mike for sending me a second lot of beer from this one. He seems to enjoy the reviews, so I hope he enjoys this one too. And like I say, this is one of their better rated beers, so I'm really interested to see how this one turns out. So this one is a 7% wheat IPA kind of sour beer hybrid, as I mentioned to you. It's hopped with Azaka, which is an American hop I'd never heard of before, Citra, Amarillo, and it's got a malt base, Pilsner, wheat and caramel malts. But just to tell you a bit about the Azaka hop, it's from Washington in America. It was first bred in 2014, and normally it has quite a strong citrusy element to the aroma. There's some mango in there, usually some peary apple esters, and a bit of pine needle as well. I looked it up because I'd never heard of it before. But it says on the back here, Follow the White Rabbit, The Matrix, Timothy Leary, Jefferson Airplane, Alice in Wonderland, Free Your Mind, and the rest will follow. We freed our minds a long time ago, and don't let conventions stop us. This beer, for example, is by no means a normal IPA. We brewed it with a lot of wheat, hopped it with Citra, Amarillo and Azaka, and used Brettanomyces bruxellensis for primary fermentation. It comes together in a fresh, dry and yet round fruity bitterness, and perhaps your mind will be challenged a bit as you taste. Enjoy. Brewed by Indslev Bryggeri AS, product of Denmark. 7%. So like I say, a 7% kind of wheat IPA sour beer hybrid sort of thing in this one. Just like you have a little quick look at the artwork on this one before we open up there, you can see the rabbit's ear sticking out the ground. This, of course, is the standard symbol of Ugly Duck Brewing Company. You can see the duck just chilling there. Plain bottle cap, as always, from these guys. It would be cool if they did black bottle caps with a kind of golden or beigey thing, I guess, on the top of the bottles there. Maybe they'll add that in the future. But best before the 17th of May 2017. So it should be quite a nice beer, and there is a good range of beers from Indslev Bryggeri and from Ugly Duck, so make sure you check some of those out. There's maybe about 8 or 9 in the Indslev range, and I think about 20 or so in the Ugly Duck range. If you search Ugly Duck or Indslev in the channel, you will see my reviews for the other ones, so make sure you go and check those out. And these guys produce some pretty good beer. I really like the wheat hybrids that you get in the Indslev range, and for me as well, the Ugly Duck range, the IPAs are really kind of where these guys start to shine, and some of the dark beers as well. The Imperial Vanilla Coffee Porter is a really good one, and the Rye Porter is quite nice as well. Putin Imperial Stout is also a good beer. You'll see that review coming a bit later on. But as you can see, this beer is poured a really kind of quite nice looking yellowy golden amber colour. There's a few little bits of sediment floating around in this one. That tends to happen with wheat beers and sour beers a little bit, but you can see if I put my fingers behind it, there is some degree of transparency, but it is quite opaque in colour. So there's a finger of a frothy white head there, some big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and quite a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of the head there. But overall it looks really nice, and I mean, for a kind of wheat IPA, this is the sort of colour you would expect. It's probably fair to say that this is a kind of bright yellow straw colour. I would say a yellow golden straw is probably a good way to kind of describe this one. So let's have a closer look at the aroma on this. Yeah, I mean, on first impression, the first note you're going to get on this is definitely the wheat. The bready character is in there, as you would expect. You can smell a little bit of the sweeter caramel and almost kind of biscuity malts in this one. You can smell a little bit of that sort of biscuity corn syrupy thing, like digestive biscuits that we have back home in Scotland. You can smell a little bit of that in there. The wheat smells nice too. It actually has a little bit of a reminiscence to a kind of Belgian wit in my experience. It does smell a little bit like a Belgian wit beer on first glance, but you can smell some of the fruit coming out on top of that. It's not too pungent when you're just letting it sit. But let's give it a little shuggle and see what else we can get out of it. So without sugaring the beer up, nice and wheaty, good bit of bready character as you'd expect, and some kind of sweet caramel, slightly biscuity malts coming out of it. So when you sugar it up, you start to get more of the fruity character in the beer. The fruit's actually quite mild. I was expecting it to be a bit more prominent than it is, but you're getting some of the kind of juicy tropical fruits that you would expect from this. There's a little bit of a kind of peary, appley ester, and that's what you'd expect from the Azaka, of course. There is a little bit of stronger tropical fruit. Maybe I want to say it's passion fruit, but that's quite mild. For me, it's more going into the juicy side of the fruity things. There's a bit of mango in there, maybe like some apricots, and the apricots, of course, are more likely. They're more likely to be from the kind of citra hop actually. The citra hop can give you like a sort of gooseberry, lychees, kind of peachy thing, and some sort of orchard fruit like pears and apples too. But the Azaka gives you, of course, that kind of that orchardy fruit as well. But you can pick up some of the dark floral aromaticity out of this beer as well. It does smell a little bit darker in that regard, but it's got quite a nice aroma. Mainly it's the wheat and the breadiness. It's more the malt side of the beer that's dominating the aroma for me, but the hoppy side of things is all blended together. But I'm quite interested with this just because it's got a hop in it that I've never come across before. But for me, definitely some peary and appley notes in there. You can smell a little bit of citrus too. You can get just a little bit of orange, which is the Amarillo, of course, and you can get the peaches, a little bit of the kind of peachy apricot-y thing from the citra hop, and then you can smell a little bit of the appley, peary thing as well from the Azaka. But it's an interesting aroma. Since it's a hop you don't come across too often, I'd recommend that you take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of this one, and hopefully I can have a look at some more beers with the Azaka in it in future. I've never encountered that hop in all 750 or so reviews that I've done for you now, so I'll need to seek out that hop a little bit more and learn a bit more about it. But let's get stuck into this beer then. This is the White Rabbit, or the Follow the White Rabbit rather, from Ugly Duck Brewing Company at Indslev Bryggeri in Fyn in Denmark. Let's get stuck into this one. Skål! Oh yeah, now that's a good beer. You'll notice that on the first taste of this one. This is a pretty damn good beer. There's no question about that. I can see why it's highly rated so already. white IPA, of course, the wheat beer is a style that I really enjoy. But what surprised me about this one, I was expecting it to be a little bit more sour, if you like. To me, it's more like a very strong kind of wheat beer. Yeah, I mean, it's got a bit more hoppy character, and of course, I guess the thing that really separates the white IPA from the Hefeweizen is you don't really have these bubblegum characters to it, these sort of bubblegum clovey spice things, and the hops of course tend to be American, which is different from the German Hefeweizens, which are the noble, the Tettnanger hops and Hallertau and things like that. But for me, there's not a lot in the way of the Brettanomyces coming out. Definitely this one, it more feels like a strong wheat IPA, and they've done this very well. And to be honest with this beer, I wouldn't expect anything less considering they're a specialist wheat beer brewery. But this is really nice. This is, just on a couple of sips, this is one of the stronger beers they've got in the Ugly Duck range. They're good at IPAs and they're good at wheat beers, so you know, when they're combining the two, then I think they're, you know, you can see why they've produced this one so well. Yeah, that's a nice beer. As I say, one of the better ones. All the beers are good, but this one for me stands a little bit above the other ones. This is a nice beer. So, in terms of the flavours with this one, as you'd expect in the middle of the palate, you've got a nice bready character that just goes right across the middle of the palate. Then you've got the wheat on top of that, and it's quite strong actually. There's some nice caramel flavours you can feel in the middle of the palate. There's not really a biscuity note. I was picking up a little bit of biscuit in the aroma, but really it's a more bready and wheaty note that's coming out of this one, and you can get a little bit of the caramel. That of course is covering up the booze. You can feel in the mouthfeel that this one is a bit stronger in the alcohol. 7% of course is starting to get to the kind of heavier side of a regular IPA, or in some cases I guess in American West Coast IPAs it can be around normal, but you can taste a little bit in this one the stronger the alcohol. But maybe that's just because I'm used to the Indslev ones, which are usually between like 4 and I think 5.5%, but you can feel that this one is a little bit stronger. But you can feel the quality in this beer. This is, as I say, one of the stronger ones that they do at the brewery in my opinion. But yeah, the malt base is really nice, and as you go out to the hoppy side of the beer, in the back corner of the palate you can feel the floral aromaticity to this one. There maybe is a little bit of pine resin just underpinning it, and as you come further forward, or at the back of the palate, maybe there's some of that pine resin sitting there, and as you come further forward, the floral aromaticity is at the kind of front corner of the palate. And as you go round the front of the tongue there, that's where some of the more grassy elements come out, but it's really nicely done. Yeah, that's a pretty solid beer, no question. With the fruity character in this beer, as I always say, the fruitiness comes out just behind the front curve of the tongue there. There's some interesting things going on in this one, because on one hand you can get the strong citrusy character that you'd expect. You can get a little bit of the orange from the Amarillo. You're also getting a little bit of the kind of stronger, more oily passion fruit and grapefruit notes that you'd expect at the Citra. But when it moves into the aftertaste, for me you start to get more of the juicier fruit characteristics that you'd expect from the Citra, and you're also getting some things that I've not really come across before, which I'm guessing is the Azaka. Yeah, I think it's fair to say that. There is like a teeny little bit of peachy character. I can pick up the mangoes as well. There is a definite little hint of mango in there. And there's a little bit of a sort of, not quite lemon limey, but maybe it is more of that kind of pear apple character coming out of this one, or maybe it's a combination of all of them. And of course you've got quite a big, if you just take the hops, I mean the Citra hop can give you quite a lot of different fruit flavours. The Amarillo does have a bit of the oily tropical fruit, but mainly it's an orange citrus you get from that. And the Azaka, of course, like I was saying, it's mangoes, citrus, a little bit of a kind of peary apple thing going on in there, and pine needles too. But you can definitely get that, and just pay attention of course to that little bit behind the front of the tongue as the beer progresses into the aftertaste. There's definitely a little bit of that peary appleness comes out there on the back end of the aftertaste, and some of the stronger, more oily citrus and tropical fruits at the start of the taste as well. It's really nice. There's a good blend of flavours in this one. This is a very, very solid beer, and I can see why this one is rated as one of the stronger ones in the Ugly Duck range, because it takes the wheat beers, which of course Indslev are very, very strong for. It takes the IPAs, which I think is the strongest area of Ugly Duck Brewing Company, and it puts them together. So for me, it's pretty good. The only surprise in this one for me is that when it says it's got Brett in it, normally I expect a little bit of a kind of sour beer tartness, but for me, the beer turned out very nice regardless. So, you know, it's a very good beer. But yeah, I mean, in fairness a little bit, if you know what flavour to expect from the Brettanomyces, you can pick up a little bit of that just at the start. When the beer starts to move into the aftertaste, you can pick up a little bit of that slightly lemony tart flavour just behind the front curve of the tongue. But overall, that plays a very minor role in the beer. The other flavours I was describing are far more prominent in this one. But the main point is, this is a very good beer, and I would say one of the stronger ones in the Ugly Duck Brewing Company range. All their beers are good, but for me this one is kind of within the top few beers. The Hop Devil, the Putin, this one, the Miami Vice is good as well. That's a nice session beer, but some of the beers are very, very strong. The Imperial Vanilla Coffee Porter, this beer is up with the stronger beers in the Ugly Duck Brewing Company range, no doubt about that. But yeah, if you like your white IPAs, check this one out. This is pretty damn good. In terms of the mouthfeel, I'd say this is mid-bodied, definitely a mid-bodied beer. It's got a little bit of crispness to it though at the same time, and it's quite an oily mouthfeel. There's a good juicy fruity character, particularly when you move into the aftertaste and you get some of the more complex things coming out, particularly because, for me it's interesting because of the Azaka hop. But you've also got a good kind of bitterness from the hops. The pine resins and the floral aromaticity in this one are particularly prominent, and you've got a nice smooth malt base in there, but it's a little bit more sweet than the regular one you would get in the Indslev beers, just because it is that bit stronger. But this for me is a very, very good beer, and within maybe the top 5 or 6 that you'll find in the Ugly Duck Brewing Company range. This is very good, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. I'd love to try it on tap and see how it turns out actually, but for me this is a really quite nice beer. So yeah, make sure you check it out. The Follow the White Rabbit from Ugly Duck Brewing Company at Indslev Bryggeri in Fyn in Denmark. Make sure you try this beer out. But until the next time, do go and try this beer for yourself. If you have tried it already, let me know your own thoughts on it in the comment section below. Really cool to try this one. Thank you once again to the guys at Ugly Duck and Indslev for sending this beer over. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do go and check out all my social media things until the next time, but make sure you go and try some of the Indslev beers and some of the Ugly Duck ones. This is one of the stronger ones I've reviewed from the range, and I definitely will be drinking a few more of these. But until the next time, slàinte just now, and we will return to Indslev Bryggeri and Ugly Duck Brewing Company in the near future. The Follow the White Rabbit from Ugly Duck Brewing Company, white IPA with a little bit of Brett in it. Slàinte just now.